attend it. So this is the file that we'll be working on today and tomorrow. For tomorrow, there will be a couple of additional sheets since there will be an advanced level of Excel. Today, we will be learning the basic and intermediate skills that we need in Excel for the regular day-to-day jobs. And tomorrow will be slight addition of a few other skills that you might require from time to time. I'll just take you through what we have on the agenda today. Firstly, I'll introduce you to what cells, ribbon, rows are, what the cell name is, what are the different reference types, and how to move along the Excel sheet, and what are the different types, what is good data, bad data, some basic formatting skills, then how do you sort and filter between data and what are the different tabs that are available, the important formulae that are required for like the level 1 analysis of any data, what is hard-coded and soft-coded data, the different types you can copy and paste data so that the sheet is more usable and more efficient for all of you. Introduction to pivot tables, that is one of the most important functions that I've come across in the last 8 years of Excel. Charts, which you will have to present in front of, say, your managers or even for your own analysis. Excel tables, then some other text related formulae or some just other casual formula that you might require, might not require. And then shortcuts, because I've seen people use the mouse for most of the Excel functions. But if you get used to the keyboard shortcuts, then you can save up on some time. So along with that, we will have a 5-minute break in between around 11:15 or so. Just give me a second, I'll mute the participants. Yes, so shall we begin with today's session? Just give me a thumbs up in the chat or through the reactions tab. Okay, I see a few thumbs going up. Okay, great. So firstly, Excel is a spreadsheet. So there are, when you say Excel, people naturally tend to think that this might be the only spreadsheet software that is around there. But along with Excel, we have OpenOffice, we have Google Sheets, and Excel Online, and so on. But most widely used is Microsoft Excel because it offers quite some dynamic functions and shortcuts and a few other capabilities along with OneDrive, which other softwares do not. And it is more powerful than some of the other softwares that are out there. So firstly, let's begin with what are cells, rows, and ribbons. So you can see me moving around the screen. So each single part of Excel that I'm selecting, that is called as a cell. So if someone, like for those who are very new or looking at Excel for the first time, if someone tells you select cell XYZ, then they are speaking about whichever cell you have to select. So if I select this cell, how do I say which cell it is? So if you see this column, the vertical part is called as a column and the horizontal part is called as a row. So if I select this is the F column. And if I select this is the 4 row. So now if I select this cell, this will be F and 4. So this is cell number F4. Now you can't always see that which column you are on or which row you are on. So for that, in the top left, there is a box where you can see the cell name, and that is called as F4. Now if I select any random cell, you can see that it has changed to K7. If I select another random cell, it has changed to G12 and so on. So the vertical selections are called as columns. The horizontal selections are called as rows, and the individual selections are called as cells. So this is the basic of Excel, which you need to know while starting Excel. Now for navigating around Excel, you can use the normal up, down, right, left arrows. But say you have this data is 17 cells. So now you can't always go individual cells one by one. So if you press Control and press down, then you will go to the last selected cell. Now after this, there are no further cells. So if I press again Control down, then it will take me to the last cell available in Excel. That is 10,48,576. Similarly, if I have to select columns, then if I press Control and right, it will take me to the last column, that is XFD. So if you have to move around your data, you don't need to press down arrow 17 times or right arrow like 25 times. You just press Control and whichever direction you want to move to, and it will take you to the last row or column selected for that data. Now, what if you have to do any function on multiple cells? How do you select multiple cells? One thing is you have selected one cell, press Control, and then click on different cells. That will help you select multiple cells. But now if you have to select all the cells, then you can't press Control and then click on each of the single cells 17 times, right? So there you will have to press Control and then you have to press Shift and then down. So Control, Shift, and whichever direction you click, that will be the selection of the maximum row. So just Control and down will navigate you to the last cell, and Control, Shift, and down will help you select all the cells. So this is the basic of navigating around your Excel worksheet. Now let me take you around what a ribbon is, because you might hear this term quite a few times. So all these tabs that are available above, so this part is known as the ribbon. So insert, layout, formulas. So all the functions that you see here are a part of the ribbon. So if you have to select any tab on the ribbon, then this is what I'm speaking about. Now reference types, I'll come back to once we take any basic arithmetic formula of addition and subtraction. So the cell rows and ribbons we have covered. The name B3 that we have covered, and Control Shift functions that we have covered. Now I'll take you to data types. The data types is available over here in the Home tab. So Home tab and data types is available over here. So there is general, number, currency, accounting, short date, long date, time, percentage, and fractions. Right? So say if I type the number 100 over here, the general will show as 100. If I select number, then it will give me a decimal, that okay, 100. Now let's consider 1000. How does 1000 show? 1000 is 1000.00. So that's a number. In general, it just shows 1000. If I select currency, then it shows rupees 1, 1000 and then 2 decimals. If I select a date, then it selects a random date. Now, is this really random? No. Because if you select 1 and then click on date, then it takes you to 1/1/1900. So this is the starting date in Excel. So when I select 1000, it is the 1000th day from this date. So sometimes if you have a data like this, where you have a transaction list, and this date suddenly starts looking like 44,000, 44,000, and so on. Then do not panic. You just need to select the data type, that is date, and you will be able to see this. Right? The next format is long date. So it will show you the month in words. Lastly, time. So time you might not always require, since we work with dates more often than we work with time. So here you can insert whatever is the time of the day or whatever is the in time, out time for the employees and so on. Percentages, 1000 is again 1 lakh percentage. And lastly, fractions. So 1000 is 1000 divided by 1 effectively. So it won't show you a different number. So if you enter 0.5, then it will show you as half. So these are the different data types that are available to you in Excel. Now let me just share this file with all of you so that if I have any function that I'm explaining, so you can also work on that. I'll be sharing it in chat. So if anyone wants to download, then you can download it from there. I'll also share the same file on the WhatsApp group so that you can easily find this. Right. So has everyone downloaded the sheet and opened it at their end? Just confirm, you can say yes or type in the chat. I'm sure that till now, I don't think there will be any doubts, since this is just the precursor to what the actual functions we will be learning. Okay, so I guess everyone has downloaded the sheet. So I'll be resharing my screen. If there is at any point you have any doubt or you need me to explain something in more detail, then you can just ping me or call me, or rather unmute yourself. Is the screen visible again? Just react with the thumbs up. Okay, great. So now we come to good data and bad data. So once you see the table over here, it is pretty clear what the table says, right? It says transaction list, then serial number, date, customer name, product, how many units are sold, what is the cost, and what is the final amount. So this data is pretty consistent, right? Now, if I sort and filter it, I'll come to that function as well. So if I sort it by name, then I can see all the transactions that Aishwarya has done. I can see all the transactions that Anaya has done, Anish, and so on. Now this is good data, since all the transactions done by Aishwarya are given in the exact same name. But say in some of the entries, I recorded it as Aishwarya. In some of the entry, I recorded it as Aishwarya S. In some of the entry I recorded it as Aishwarya Shinde. So then if I have to summarize, then it becomes a very difficult problem for me, because then I don't know which Aishwarya is same, which Aishwarya is different. So in such a situation, whenever you are recording data in Excel, it is very important right from the start that record it in a consistent format. If you are, say, recording the customer names, then do it as, say, first name, last name. Or if you are recording the initials, then do it in that format. If it is first name and the first letter of the last name, then keep it consistent for everyone that you are recording the data for. Because the next time you have to see that, okay, how many entries I have for a particular person, or say for a particular item or whatever. If you just select one of the names and some data is recorded in some other name for the same person, then your reports will start going wrong. So having the consistency of names in all the recording is very important. Now, I guess some of you might have encountered data where you have faced this problem. Is there any situation that you have come across? Let's keep it slightly interactive and not just one way. If you have come across, you can just unmute and share it in brief.
Yes, many times.
Would you like to just share in a couple of words or say a couple of sentences what the problem was?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so many times what happens is uh, if we are using one desktop in office, I happen to type a name in a different way, and my colleague will type the same name in another way, and then that adds like an extra name to the same data, and then the third person will just come and copy paste again, or will do something different. So for one person, eventually we used to get different spellings, and that has unnecessarily increased the work for all of us.
Right. So as Ishan rightly said, while recording data, two, three, or multiple different people might be recording the data on the same sheet. So for every individual person, the data is consistent. But once someone tries to summarize or analyze this data, then it becomes a big challenge that how many entries are for the same person, or whether this is a different person. That then becomes a challenge. So this is one important part of having good data, that is consistency in recording the data. The second part is that right now, the control function that I told you, if I select control and down, this is taking me to the last row. That is 200th row, or rather 204th, since I started on the 4th row. This I can reach how many cells that are there. But say in between, there's a random blank cell that is there. Now if I press control, then I am reaching only the 19th row, and all the data is not getting selected. So whenever you are recording data, please ensure that there is no random blanks in between the data. If you don't have something available, then you can type it as NA, not available, to be discussed, to be confirmed, or something like that. Don't keep the data blank. Now, in the meanwhile, let me also explain how I added that row in between. So whenever you want to select a full column, you have to you have to press Control and space. If you have to select a row, then you have to press Shift and space. I'll share this recording that I'll be uploading on YouTube with everyone. So if anyone wants to go back and check these shortcuts, then you will always find them there. Once you start practicing them more and more, you will get used to the shortcuts. So eventually it becomes a part of muscle memory. You don't really need to think that it's shift and space or control and space and so on. Once you select a row, you can go to the insert tab from above, and there you can insert rows, or a simpler way, you just press Control Shift and plus, the row will be added, and Control minus will delete the row. So just an additional thought that I felt I should add in between. So this was about good data and bad data. But when you are recording new data, do you think you should add the data horizontally or vertically? I mean, let me just take this table and sort it serial number wise once again. And I'll paste it here once more. So now this data is the same data just in vertical and horizontal format. Here I'm seeing that on which date which transaction is done. And here also I am seeing on which date which transaction is done. So every next transaction that is there, I'll go and add it to the next column. In the first table, I'll add the data in the next row, whichever transaction is done. So what do you guys think? Whether I should do it vertically as shown in this table, or whether I should do it horizontally as shown in this table? Any thoughts from the participants? Like, does the vertical table look better?
Vertical. Mm.
Okay, Ishan thinks it's vertical. Anyone else?
If we want to select it by product, then horizontal will help.
Yes, if you want to select by product, then horizontal might help. Any others? Okay, so I personally prefer having a vertical table, because the way it helps me is that if I have to say select any customer, go into the filter, I have to select entries by Ishan, then I can easily filter it vertically. But if I have to filter it horizontally, then it becomes a problem. So that's why I personally feel that any data or table that you are making, you can make it in a vertical manner, so that because usually the number of columns is lesser than the number of rows. See, if we check here, the count is 7. So there are 7 columns and we have 200 rows. So when you are looking at the screen, horizontally, you just need to see what are the columns that are there. And then vertically, you can go on adding the data. Now, if I have to say, do another function that amount, and then I'll say that, okay, surname. Now I have to add the surname. So now here I can easily filter, say, I'll select Ishan and then I'll add Ishan's surname. Then I'll add someone else's name and then I'll add their surname, and so on. So I personally feel that for good data, you have to start adding the additional data vertically rather than horizontally. Now let's move on to formatting, font color, borders, alignment, etc. So now let's take the same table. I'll just remove the formatting and I'll mess up the alignment a bit. So now this is the same table that was there before, but as compared to the previous table, this doesn't look very clear, right? Okay, for this also I'll remove the formatting. I'll select it as general. For the date also, the data type, I'll keep it as general over here for now. So now it's very hard to see what the data exactly is. So having the right data in the right data type and proper formatting is very important. So now I will select the column B. I'll select the data type as date. So now I can see on which date which transaction has been done. Now I need borders for the table, right? So Control Shift left, Control Shift down. Now I've selected the full table and now I need to insert the borders. So in this Home tab, you will see this icon just above font. So you have to press on that, select all borders. So now all the borders are there. Now I have to change the heading like it is there in this table. I want to have color and I want to change the font color. So for that, you will see again in the font part of the Home tab, you have to select whichever color you want. Say this blue, green, or I personally prefer this color. Again here, the consistency part that I said, I always use this color, white font and bold and center. So this is the format that I use in all the tables that I create. So whenever my senior is looking at it or whenever any of my colleagues or clients are looking at it, they know that whatever analysis I'm doing is going to be in this certain format. So once they are also used to looking at the data, they will also understand that, okay, this is what I expect and this is where I need to look for whatever thing I'm looking for. If there is no formatting or no consistency, then it becomes very tough to actually understand what the data is. Now again, here in amounts, the amount is very small, so it is easy to read that, okay, this is 2,200. But say instead of 11 units, there were 10,000 units. Now you can't easily understand that, okay, what is this figure? So for this, if you select the G column and go to accounting, it will give you rupees and it will give you the commas that are there in between. So now it is easy to understand that, okay, this amount is 20 lakhs. And then in the number tab for the dot zeros, if you click this button twice, then the decimals are gone, right? So now in your own tables, own sheets, you can select this table, Control Shift left and Control Shift down if you are starting from the amount tab. And you can go to this Home tab just above the fonts, the borders option that is there. So if you select no borders, then that portion will be gone. If you select on the theme colors and click on no fill, then that option will be gone. If you select on font black, then the white font is gone. And then from the data types portion, just select general and the whole data is in general format now. So I'll just share this sheet once again and I'll give you a couple of minutes to just try and get the data to the format that I had said. I've shared the file in chat once again. So if you want to check, just check the formatting, then you can go and check that. If everyone is comfortable and if everyone knows this part, then I can move ahead to the next functions. You can just type it in chat or you can say it in the Zoom by unmuting yourself. Do you guys want to try it out on your own or do you want to try it on later and want me to move on with the other formulas. Yeah, I'll wait for a couple of minutes just to see if I get any feedback. Okay, Nikita is saying try it on later. For now, we can move on. Okay. I'll be sharing this recording also with everyone once I upload it to YouTube. So you can try it on your own as well. So now this simple thing, I've been doing it for so many years that if I actually have to do all the settings once again, then for me, it doesn't take much time because I've been doing the same thing over and over once again. So there's this quote by a sports person that the actual practice happens during the training. So once you are in the match or once you are in the contest, then you don't need to worry so much. So since I have already practiced this so many times, now I can do this process very easily. For most of you, the case would be same. For those who are learning from scratch, you will take some time, but you will also get there. The next thing on today's agenda is the different tabs. So this home, insert, page layout, formulas, data, review. These are the things that you see above. These are called as tabs. Now, some of you might be using older versions or some things might not be activated for you guys. So it will be slightly different. You might not see power pivot and so on, but that's fine. You don't need to get to that immediately. It can be slightly different based on whatever your use scenario is. So the home tab is the tab where you can see the basic cut, copy, paste functions. If you just hover your cursor over any of the function, then you can see what the function is about. So align left, this is wrap text, conditional formatting, format as table, and so on. So the home tab, this is the copy paste area and format painter area. This is the font editing part. This is the alignment part. And whether you want to format your data in a certain way. Conditional formatting and all we will be covering tomorrow. Today we just covered the basic formatting. And if you want to insert rows, delete rows, format in certain way, these are the sort and filter functions which we will be covering next. And the analysis data, you don't really need to look at immediately for now. In the insert tab, if you want to insert shapes, pictures, and so on, then you can do that. For example, I'll just insert a shape over here, click on a rectangle, and click on this shape. So the shape is inserted and you can just type it in between. Hello all, welcome to the Excel session. So now other than this table, if you want to highlight something, then you can insert this shape and type in the shape, right? Now this alignment tab that was there, alignment part of the home tab. If I click on middle align and center align, now this shape looks better. Here is the font size. So you can increase the font and now everybody is able to read it. So these are just some examples that I'm covering. When you actually work or when you actually try for yourself, you can explore these options. So here I showed how to insert a shape. If you have to insert a picture, then you can do it from your own device, or you can select some stock images, or you can select some online pictures. Here, if you want to insert a screenshot, then you can select screen clipping. And here you can see whatever I can see. Along with that, you can insert charts from here, 3D maps, links, text, any symbol that you want to insert, and so on. We will come to charts a few minutes later. The page layout, that is more for the printing of the data, or if you want to say change the theme or change the color of something. more often than not, you won't have to use it. But if you are, say, printing anything, then you will have to use the part. The formulas tab will have multiple formulas, insert function. If you want to define the name of a selection, then you can do that. You can trace precedent, trace dependent. This part we will cover tomorrow, since that is a bit more detailed into the Excel part. The data tab, if you have any pivots, then you will have to refresh the data once you add anything or if you delete anything. So for that, the refresh tab is there. And for sort and filter, you can do it from the home tab. You can do it from the data tab as well. The text to column function, I'll cover in some time. What if and forecast, that I will be covering tomorrow. The review tab. So if you want to add comments to your peers data, or if you want to say add notes or take notes, and for that the review tab is used. But I personally haven't really used it much over the last 8 years. So for my use case scenario, I don't think it is necessary. The view tab again will give a page break preview. So like this page is being printed and normal is just this screen. View tab also I haven't really needed to use much. It is just useful for freeze panes. So I'll just cover this function right now. So many times, if you have lots of data, then if you keep on scrolling downwards, then you will lose the header, right? And then it becomes hard to track what exactly you are looking at. So if I want to freeze this row, and whenever I scroll down, I want to see this row consistently. So then I'll keep this row at the top of my sheet. I'll select the row below it and I'll click on freeze panes and freeze top row. So now whenever I scroll downwards, that row remains constant and I can easily see what is the data that I'm looking at. Right? Any doubt with the freeze panes function or the part that I've covered till now? If you want to unfreeze, then you can click on the same part and you will see the unfreeze option as well. The help tab and power pivot is not really necessary for us right now, so I will skip that. So once different tabs are done, then the sort and filter function is there. So whenever you want to sort the data, say you want to see which was the transaction at the initial part of the data, or if you want to see alphabetically who are the customers that you have, or alphabetically what are the products that are there, or what is the per transaction amount that is there in descending ascending order, then you will have to use the sort and filter function. You just select all the data, go on the home tab, go to sort and filter. If you want to filter, then just click on filter option. Now once you see these arrows over here, the gray arrows, that means that your sort function is now activated, sort and filter function. If you click on, say, the arrow near customer name, so then you can see that these are the customers. And if I have to search for one single customer, say Indra, I click on Indra, and then I can see only the transactions that are done by Indra. If you have to remove it, you just click on that arrow once again and click on clear filter. So this filter will be applicable for any of the columns that we have selected. For product, if I have to see a chess set, I'll again go here, click on chess set and click OK. So now I can see who all have done the chess set transactions. Again, I'll click on this clear filter from product. I can see the whole data once again. We had changed, so let me take it back to original. Now cost wise, if I want to see what is the lowest cost item, then I'll click on the arrow, I'll click smallest to largest. And now I can see that, okay, tennis ball was the lowest item. After that, the golf ball was there. After that, the Ludo, leather ball, bales, all of them are 200. Then Monopoly was 300 and so on. This was the individual item wise thing. If I want to see the total transaction amount, I'll click on say largest to smallest. Here 2,20,000 was one big order for leather balls that Ishan had put in. So that is the one major order. Other than that, it is 6,000, 5,000 and so on. So the sort and filter tab can be used for this function. Now, there is one more application of sort and filter other the sort app. So click on data, and here if you click on sort, so you can see that there is levels. So what if I want to see that what is the highest transaction that is done by Ishan? What is the highest transaction that is done by Aishwarya and so on. So I'll click on add level. This part I will select first. I'll select what do I want to look by. Firstly, I want the name alphabetically A to Z. Then I want the amount largest to smallest. Then if I press OK, now I can see that, okay, Aishwarya's transactions are first. Her biggest transaction is 6,000. Then Anaya's transaction is there. Her biggest transaction is also 6,000. Anisha's biggest transaction is 3,600 and so on. So if you just select the sort option from this arrow, then you can select by any one single criteria. If you want to do it by multiple criteria, then you have to go to data tab and then click on filter or sort. Right? Any doubts in the sort or filter function for anyone?
Vivaswan Malak, I have one question.
Yeah.
So usually, if I look at the bank statement, I'll have first name and last name combined.
Yes.
So in that case, if I want to sort it alphabetically, do I need to like change that format to like first name and then a different column with the last name?
No, you don't need to do that, because say if you want to do it by last name, then you will have to separate the columns. I'll show how to do that in some time.
Okay.
But if you just want to do it by first name, then anyways, it is starting with your first name and then it is the last name. So for example, if here say it is Aishwarya S, Aishwarya D, Aishwarya T, and so on. So now if I filter this alphabetically, so the normal Aishwarya will come first since there is nothing after that. Then alphabetically Aishwarya D comes first, then Aishwarya S comes first, and then Aishwarya T. So even if it is first name and last name, if you filter it, that won't be an issue. If you want to filter it by last name, then you will have to separate the names.
And according to the complete table will change, right? Not just this column.
Yes, complete table changes.
Okay.
So whenever you are applying a filter, make sure that you are selecting all the data that is there and then you are clicking on filter. Because if you select lesser data, then it will apply to only those rows and rest of the rows will not update them.
Okay, yeah.
For example, I'll just that here say there is nickname is one column and A, B, C, D, E. So this is the column which now filter is not there. You don't see the gray arrow that is there. So now if I filter it, say oldest to newest. So this column has not updated because this is not a part of the filter. So whenever you are using the filter function, make sure filter or sort function, make sure that this arrow is available, seen on all the columns that you want to select. Right?
Okay.
Any other questions for this part? Okay, I guess not. So then I'll move on to the next. So now the basic arithmetic formulae. So arithmetic is basically plus minus divided by and multiplied by. So for plus minus, for any formula to activate, you have to press equal to, and then whatever formula you have to use, that you have to use. Now, if I want to add all these three numbers, I'll select is equal to this plus this plus this, and then press enter. So then it will give me addition of the numbers. Similarly, for minus, you have to select whatever column or cell or row you want to select, and minus this. So this answer it will give me. For multiplication, there is no X sign that is there in Excel. So you have to use the star sign, which is above the number 8. So shift and 8. And then you have to select the next. 300 into 200, that is 60,000. And similarly for divided by, there is no divided by sign. You have to select slash and then click. So plus minus, plus is plus, minus is minus, multiplied by is the star or asterisk, and the division is the slash. But what if there is, say, 200 rows of data and you want to add this? So you can't really go that this plus this plus this plus this and so on. That will be a very tedious task. So in such a situation, you can do it as is equal to sum. So the sum that we take, then you will have to go and select the full data that is there. So this is the sum of all of this. But what if I paste the same formula in a row below? Now, why are these differing? Although I just copied and pasted it, Control C is copy and Control V is paste. So although I just copy pasted this, the number is different. So that is because when you move any formula from one cell to another, the reference of that formula changes. Now, what is reference? Here, if you see the formula, it is sum bracket G5 to G204. So the first row that we started was on G5 and the sum was till G204 in this cell, in cell G206. But when I pasted the same formula in G207, it shifted one row below. This formula also changed from G5 to G6 and 204 to 205. So now, if I look at the first row, then that first row got skipped. So similarly, if you paste certain formulas in different places, then you might miss out on some of the cells that you need to do. So what is the solution for this? You have to select the cells that you have and press F4. So the dollar signs that you see, $G, $5, and $G, $204. Now the cells are fixed. So now wherever you paste this formula, the value will be same. This is called as relative reference and absolute reference. Whenever there is no dollar sign, it's a relative reference. So if I paste the same formula without the dollar signs, now I paste it in the side row, side column, then now it will give me a sum of not G but F. So this is the relative formula, relative reference. Whereas if I select the dollar sign, then it becomes an absolute reference. So in that case, the formula will select only those cells irrespective of where you are putting the formula, right? So the dollar sign fixes your formula. And
That's by F4, right?
yes, F4. So if you want to put this formula once again, how you will do it as is equal to sum. By pressing tab, you will select that function and control shift up. Now you have selected all of this. Press F4 once. Now you see the dollar function and then press enter. Now if you just want to fix the number of number of rows and not column, then you have to, how will you do that? The dollar sign fixes whatever is there in the formula, right? So $G, the G column is fixed. And $5, the fifth row is fixed. So if I want to paste this same formula for F, what if I do that right now? It will again show me the sum of G column, but I want the sum of F column. So in that situation, in the first formula, I remove the dollar from G. So now it reads as G $5 and G $204. So now the row number 5 to 204 is fixed, but the column name is not fixed. So here, now if I paste this, now it gives me the sum of F column instead of G column. Right? So whichever part you want to fix, put a dollar sign before that. And whichever part you want to keep relative, remove the dollar sign before it. Right? This might be slightly confusing for those who are reading about this or listening about this for the first time. But once you use it more yourself, once you explore it, try it a few times, make a few mistakes, you will also learn and it will become natural for you. Any doubts over here?
Just show me one more time how to add dollars, because I'm trying that and I think I'm not able to do that.
Yeah.
So
For any formula, whenever you select a selection, whenever you make a selection, so the bracket is open right now. So it is equal to some bracket open G5, G204. Right now, if you press F4, then it will become fixed. Is it working?
so just F4, right? No, not control F4, just F4.
Just F4. If you have the function
Okay.
keys on your laptop, like if it is changing the brightness or so on, then you have to press function F4, like the FN F4, the key beside F1, the FN key that is there, because that is the setting on some of the laptops. Or you can just manually type in the dollar sign as well by pressing Shift 4. There is the dollar sign. Is it working now?
Yes, I think when I'm doing it manually, it's working, but I think there is a function key activated, so maybe that's why I was not able to do it, but I got the logic.
Okay. So I'll take this issue up with you after the session is over. So there I can resolve it for you. Right? So these are the basic arithmetic formulae that are there. Now, many of the times in analysis, say at the end of the month or at the end of the year, you are sitting with lots of transactions and you want to see what is the average of all your invoices, what is the average ticket size of all your invoices. So for that, again, to activate any formula, you have to press equal to and then type average and then press. So once you select average, there are multiple options that you can see, right? So today we will just be covering average. Average if we will cover tomorrow. So once you select any formula, to select it, you have to press tab. So then it will open the bracket and then you will be able to select all the numbers that are there. So average, then make the whole selection and press enter. So 3000 rupees is my overall transaction size, average transaction size for the year of 200 transactions. So for example, if I have to forecast that, okay, next year, what will be my revenue? So I'll just this is equal to sum. So this year my revenue was 6,04,950. Rather, this is from 1st of Jan 21 to October. So for the next period, if I have to see my revenue, and for 200 orders, it is 604,950. So average is basically this divided by this 3024.75. So if I remove the decimals, it becomes 3025 once again. So now if I have to say that, okay, next year I'll be doing extra marketing, extra promotion of my brand, and next year say I will have 300 orders. Then you can estimate your revenue as 3025 as the average order size and multiplied by 300. So that, okay, next year my revenue will be 9 lakhs. So for that, the average part will be important, right? But say if the last transaction instead of 8 golf balls was 8,000 golf balls. So that is one single order which might not always happen every time. So in such a situation, average won't exactly be the right function for you to use. Instead, you can use the median function. So the median transaction is actually 1,350. So next year, if you do 300 transactions instead of 200, then your expected revenue should be 4,05,000, whereas you will be expecting the revenue of 21 lakhs by using the average function. So such types of errors you might do initially in the data analysis stage, but once you get the hang of it, you will be able to manage it better. Right? Any questions regarding the average or median functions?
No.
Okay, great. So now another thing, when we initially use the sort function, largest to smallest, we saw that this is the largest transaction, then we have to scroll all the way, control down, and 200 is the smallest transaction. But what if we want to use a formula to track it? And like average, there is a max formula. Again, select all these cells. And there is a min formula, maximum and minimum. So that way we can easily find out what was the highest transaction and what was the lowest transaction. Now we can also find what was the highest transaction for every customer, what was the highest transaction for every item and so on. But that requires the if function, which we will be covering tomorrow. Now, what is hard code and soft code? This is one very important thing which used to annoy me quite a lot whenever I was doing audit, because sometimes in formulas, people hard code data. So now what is hard coding? So as I said, is equal to sum of this. And now say this is customer A, customer B, customer C. So these are 3 customers and I have to find what is the average of the 3 customers, right? So I'll either select average like this, or I will do is equal to 600 divided by 3. So now here the value is same. But what is the difference between the two? Here I have selected formula for everything. Or here I can even do this 600 divided by 3. So this is also 600 by 3. This is also 600 by 3. But what if I later realize that, okay, customer A value was not actually 100, it was 1000, I had missed a 0. So the actual average is 500. So now in the formula it got refreshed, but where I had entered 600, that is not refreshed. So whenever I'm creating a big spreadsheet of data, and if I'm entering values manually 600, then that won't update whenever your data updates. And later on, it becomes very hard to identify where the error in the sheet is. So whenever you are using the reference of a certain cell, always select that cell in your formula. That is equal to E8 divided by 3. So this is called as soft coding. So whenever this cell changes, your answer will also change. Here, when you put in 600, that is called as hard coding. Whatever changes you make above, your final answer is not going to change over here. So this is the portion of soft coding and hard coding that is there. And it is one of the most important things that I have learned in this 8 years of journey, that whenever you are giving the reference of a certain cell, make sure that you are actually selecting that cell and not just entering the value that is mentioned in that cell. Right? Now, before we move on to different types of copy paste, we can take, say, a 4-minute break and we will resume at 11:15. In the meanwhile, you can try all of these formulas in your own spreadsheets and let me know if you are facing any errors.
Okay.
Any questions that anyone has so far? Today's session is a beginner to intermediate session. So like for most of you, you will be already knowing the things that I'm mentioning today. Yes, so it is 11:16. Let's resume with the session. I guess there are no questions till now. So now we will move to the different copy and paste functions. So I showed you about the relative referencing for the different formulas. So now what if your boss asks you that what was the amount total for these customers for January and for February? So now if you just paste this formula over here, it will give me 0, Control C and Control V. Now if I want to paste this value, I will have to paste it as either by giving a relative reference or a fixed value. So if I want to send just this table to my boss, then I don't need any formulas in that because there might be some reference errors or something like that. I want to paste just the value of it. So then I will go to this paste, and then in the paste values part, I will select values. Other options are values and number formatting and values and source formatting, like what was the original source, just do it like that. So currently I will select as values. Once I copy this, Control C, while pasting over here, I'll again paste it as values. So now over here, even if it is changing, my value is not changing in this table that I'm sending to my boss. Right? So this is one important part. And another type of copy and paste. So this sum formula that is there. So I want to paste it over here. So whenever I copy this, while pasting it over here, I'll go to paste, and then I'll just see what are the different options. Keep source formatting, transpose, keep column width, no borders, etc. So I just want to paste the formula over here, right? So now I'll click on paste formulas. So now whatever formula was there this side gets pasted to the other side. Now let's make it into a formatted table. Right? Now what if I want to send this to someone and I have to paste it somewhere else? Say I open my Word file. I want to paste this table over here. So now the formatting is getting all messed up. So here, if I select paste as image or picture, now I can move this thing around without the worry of formatting. So whenever you are copying and pasting a table from somewhere, it is good to paste it as a picture so that nobody can really edit the data or nobody can tamper with your data. But what if now I have pasted this thing over here, or just let me give you an example over here. Paste it as picture. And now I realize that there is some mistake in my data. So now instead of 300, I'll make it as 400. And now if you see my actual total is 1600, whereas in the image that I had pasted, I can see it as 1500. Or say every month I update this, that currently it is January and February. Next month I want to do it as February and March. Now again, I'll have to copy it and paste it as a picture, right? So instead of doing that, you can just copy and paste it as a linked picture. So once you paste it as a linked picture, if something changes in your actual table, the picture is also getting updated. So these are some small things which might not help you each and every day, but if you have a regular thing that you have to do, regular reports that you have to prepare every month, every week, every day, and so on, then it just helps you save that couple of minutes of your time. And such functions aggregating over a longer period help you save a bit of longer time. So these were the different types of copy and paste that I wanted to cover. And now coming to pivot tables. So just by a show of hand, can you tell me how many of you have a good control over pivot tables and how many of you... Okay, first let me ask, how many of you have a good control over pivot tables, good hand over pivot tables? You can just show a thumbs up or use the raise hand function. Okay, Nikita has a good hand over it. Okay, how many of you have an average understanding of pivot tables, or at least know what pivot tables are? Okay, Ishan has given me a thumbs up. And how many of you have no idea what pivot table is, or have never used it before? Okay, I see a few hands going up for that. So I'll cover it from the basics. So initially when I said that, okay, let me put a filter and see what are the transactions that are done by, say, Gauri. So then these are the transactions done by Gauri. Now, if I have to again summarize, okay, what are the transactions that are done by Aishwarya? So every time I have to select one name from the filter. Now, what are the transactions done by Aishwarya of a chess set? So again, I have to select Aishwarya chess set. What are the transactions that are done by Aishwarya of a chess set in August? So again, I have to go here, select August. And now if I have to quickly see what are the transactions done by Ishan in August for a chess set, and again I have to select and filter all of this, and it becomes very time consuming. So instead there is a function called as pivot table. For that, you have to select your data, go to the insert tab, pivot table, and from table or range. So this range you have already selected. Now whether you want to put it in a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. So for now, I'll just put it in the existing worksheet over here. Now this sudden pivot table field list opens up. Now what did I want to see? Which customer has bought which item in which month, right? So here there are different types: filters, columns, rows, values, and so on. So I want to see the list of customers. So I'll put the customer name in rows. Now I can see that, okay, these are the customers that I have. Then after that, I want to see which are the products that they have bought. So then put the product. After that, I'll see what is the amount that they have bought. So since it is a number over here, it is automatically understanding that, okay, I want the sum of that amount. But sometimes it might take count. So in that situation, you will have to click on this, go to value field settings and press count. Now, currently, count, average, max, min, all of that is available. So earlier we checked the max function. So if you remove the product, then you can see what is the maximum transaction for each of the customers. Here then if I see min, then you can see what is the minimum amount for each of the customers. If I see the average, I can see what is the average transaction for each of the customers, and so on. For now, I want the sum. So this is the overall transaction amount for all the customers. And now I also want to see what is the amount by product. So here, if I remove customer name, then I can see the list just by products. Again, all the same functions of average, maximum, minimum, what is the average amount of a product, and so on. What is the maximum transaction, and so on. For now, let's go with sum. So now I can see that, okay, Aishwarya has bought these many items, and this is the total amount of all those items. Anaya has bought these items, and this is the total of all the items. Now here I have turned off subtotals, but if you go to pivot table design and click on subtotals, show subtotals at bottom of the group and show grand totals. So now you can see that, okay, Aishwarya bought this much and her total amount was this. Anaya bought these things, her total amount was this. Anish bought these things, his total amount was this. Gauri bought these things, her total amount was this, and so on. So this is the basic of what pivot table is. So if you want to summarize your data where the names are consistent and there are multiple entries for the same name, then the pivot table is important. Now let me just remove the product and put in the date instead. So now when you enter the date, Jan total, Feb total, and so on. So now it is giving me monthly data. Now in Excel, higher versions like 16 and above, or maybe even in 13, whenever the date format is known, it automatically groups the date. So here, if you right click and click on group, now you can see that it is done by months, quarters, and years. For now, I just want the months, so I'll deselect that and press OK. So now it gives me the data in months. If I again click on group and select years and not months, then it will show me just by the years. And again, if I select on group and don't select years also, then it will just show me the data by the number of days. So like each and every day, how much transaction is done. So for now, for the ease of use, let's select months. So now I can see what is the transactions that is done by per person in every month. Now if I remove the customer name, then I can see what are the total transactions in Jan, Feb, March, and so on. So for those who have businesses or are reporting, so for them, it is easy to understand that how many transactions are done in every month and what is the total of them. That way you might be able to see that, okay, here in November, I get very few transactions. So I need to do extra marketing in November. Or say here in January, I get lots of transactions. So maybe I will need some extra help or need to employ extra people in January, and so on. Any questions related to the basic of pivot table?
No.
From anyone else?
Viwas fun.
Yeah.
Just one observation that like when we're looking at this table, I can see date has an option for filter, but not sum of amount. Why is that so?
Because this is put in rows. So whatever you put in rows, so that will have a filter option because you want to filter it by, say, only by Aishwarya and okay, her transactions. If you want to filter it only by, say, Rajesh and Anish, then it will show only their transactions. So the filter option is there for whatever criteria you are selecting.
Okay.
And since sum is just the uh, function that is
Amount.
being carried out, so the sum gets updated based on whatever filter you are selecting. So that's why it doesn't have a specific filter. So if you put sum
Okay.
in rows, then amount will also have a filter, but then it won't get added. It will just show as individual amount. Like these 4 transactions are done in January. Whereas if you put this amount in values, it will show the total amount for January.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, Smita has mentioned that I'm going a bit too fast in pivot tables. So I'll just take some additional time. I'll just repeat a few things that I covered. So here in our table, we can see that there are multiple entries for same customer, multiple entries for the same product, and so on. Multiple entries for the same month. So if I want to quickly summarize the data, then I will use a pivot table. So I'll select the data, go to insert and go to pivot table. So for now, I've already entered a pivot table over here. Now, whatever data you want to summarize, that you will enter in rows or columns, and whatever is the result that you want, that you will put in the values function. So customer name I am putting in rows and amount I am putting in the values. So this will show me what is the amount for each customer. Now, if I want to see what is the product wise amount, then I can either put the product selection below the customer name in rows. So it will now show me customer wise which products have been bought. If I put the product name above customer name, then it will show me product wise which customers have bought the product. The same if I want to see in a different tabular format, then I can also put the product in columns. So now it will give me a spread out table. Here you can see that, okay, all the data you can see in one go. Instead of seeing it row wise, if I put the product in columns and the customer name in rows, now I can see that for bales, okay, these are the total of transactions. For chess set, these are the total. So now, since I have kept the grand totals on, I can see that the grand total for bales is 9,400. Grand totals for chess set is 82,000. Grand total for cricket bat is this much. And if I go to the right, I can see the grand total for the rows. So here I can see that grand total for Aishwarya is this much. Grand total for Anaya is this much. Anish is this much. Gauri is this much. So pivot table is basically how you use your, how you summarize all the data that you have. It is a application or a function to do that. I know it is a bit heavy to grasp all of it in the first go, but once you use it, once you practice it on your own, it will become slightly more easier to use. So this same data, which was earlier in this format, if I just go over here click on accounting and then reduce the zeros. If I just press comma and reduce the zeros, now it becomes slightly easier to read since there are comma separators added in between the numbers. I'll be sharing the recording for this as well. So, and some additional functions of pivot table I'll be covering in tomorrow's session. So other than that, if there are any questions or any specific questions, you can ask.
Because once a pivot table is prepared, we cannot. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, once a pivot is prepared, we cannot amend it, right? Like,
Amend in what way?
like for example, now this is a pivot for these many people. Now, if I want to add another name, I cannot do it here, right?
Yes, good question. So you can't directly change it in the pivot table. You will have to change it in the original data, and then it will get changed in the pivot table. So for now, I'll just remove the product for ease of simplicity. And the next portion after pivot tables, that is charts and then tables. So I'll just cover the tables function right now. So here we have these many names. What are the, so we have these 10 names that are there, right? Count 10, we can see over here. So you are saying that, say, if we add another name, say on, what is the date today? 8-10-22, 8th October. Say it is Shaunak. He bought a chess set. He bought 10 pieces. Now I had made a table earlier. So what is the price of a chess set? 400. Then 400. And now since I had already put the formula above, Excel understood that, okay, I want the same formula once again. So this is an additional name. Now this won't get immediately updated because, just one second. Yeah. If you go to pivot analyze and click on change data source, then you will see that we had selected only up to row 204, right? We hadn't selected the last row because we added it later on. So if you add data to this later, it won't get updated. So how to manage this? Like even if you select this pivot and click on refresh, the name Shaunak won't show because it is added outside of the pivot table data. So for that, you have to select this data. I'll just delete this last entry. You have to select this data and press Ctrl T. That is basically an insert table function that you can also do via insert and table. So does my table have headers? So yes, I have put the headings. I have selected the headings and I'll press OK. So now the format has slightly changed. Now this has become into an Excel table. Now I'll say 201 and 810 Shaunak test set 10 pieces 400 and it recognizes this. Now if I go to this table, click on pivot table, analyze and refresh. Now it shows the name Shaunak. So if you have your data made into an Excel table, like table as in by going to insert and clicking on insert table, then your pivot table will update whenever you press the refresh button. From pivot
Okay.
table analyze and refresh.
Okay.
If you don't have it in the table format, then it won't update whenever you make any changes. So if you are not adding any additional data, and if you are just making the change in the amount or so, then your figure will change. Then it will get updated even if it is not a table. But if you are adding additional data, then you will have to make it into a table. Right?
Yes, okay.
Okay. Someone else was also asking some question, I think, earlier. Earlier, when Ishan wanted to ask a question, someone else was also trying to ask, I think. So I'll wait for a couple of minutes to see if anyone has any questions. Okay, I guess there are not any other questions for now. Now let's take a look at charts. So for charts, instead of using this table, let me use a simpler data, which we will prepare together. All of you have sheet 3 in your tab, right?
Yes.
In your sheet, yeah. So let's click your amount and profit. For year, we can start with 2000. Then select 2000 plus 1. So it will be 2001. And now for the users of mouse, if like there is this small icon that is seen at the end of bottom right of a cell. So once you drag your mouse over this, the cursor changes from a plus sign to a smaller plus sign. Now if you drag this thing, the formula gets pasted for whatever amount of rows that you are selecting it. So let's select the data from 2001 to 2020. Now I'll teach you a function called as random or rand between. So when I was preparing this data, I didn't have any actual transactions to work with. So there I use the function RANDBET, yeah, rand between. And now I want to give a bottom limit and a top limit to it for my data. So bottom limit I will give it as 1000. Top limit I will give it as 10,000. So now the rand between functions give me a random number between the range that I have selected. Right?
Viewers, 1 minute, just 1 minute. I'm just 1 second, okay?
Yes, yes.
Viewers, when I'm trying to get the numbers, okay?
Yeah.
See, I'm seeing that for the first three cells, there are, I'm getting the same number 2001, 2001, 2001, and then 2002, 2001.
Okay, so you have manually entered 2001, right?
No, I did 2000. I mean, I did formula like equals to 2000 plus 1 and then enter.
Okay,
Which
now
I
if you
the reason.
did you figure it out?
I guess that's the reason. I need to select that
Okay,
cell, right?
yes.
Okay, correct. Okay, 1 second.
The example that I shared between hard coding and soft coding, what he did was that 2001, instead of this plus 1, he
Right.
entered 2001 plus 1. Now, if you drag this, it will just show 2002 because here, since it was a relative reference, it becomes A2 plus 1. The row below it becomes A3 plus 1.
Yes. Okay.
The row below it becomes A4 plus 1. Instead, if you just manually enter it, then it becomes 2000 plus 1, 2001 plus 1. So it stays consistent. So whenever you are giving a formula which you are going to paste, it is good to give a reference instead of hard coding the data. Are others following on, or like, are they facing any issue, or is this going okay? Okay, so now for the rand between function, it just gives me a random number between 1000 and 10,000. So now every time you click on the formula and you press enter, it will refresh the number. Also, one way to enter a cell to change anything is to double click on the cell with a mouse, or you can also press F2 to enter into that cell to change the formula. Now for the amount, I can again see the black plus sign. I'll just double click it and the data gets filled for all the rows that are there in the table. And now for profit, let's again select and between 500 to 1000. Now, if I have to work on this data, every time I press enter or every time I refresh, the numbers will keep on changing. So I'll copy this data and paste values. So whenever you want your formula to be freezed and you don't want the numbers to change, you copy it and click on paste values.
VV, sorry to bother, but like ran between like when what is the use of this ran between? I mean,
So currently I'm just using it to make a table, but this function will be helpful when you want to make a random selection. Say you are doing a lucky draw, you have to give a discount to a customer that you say put on an offer that
okay.
out of the 100 customers or out of all the customers that register this month, 3 of them will get a discount. So in such a situation, or if you want to do a simulation that in what if the profit is somewhere between 1000 to 6000, then what is the amount that I'm getting? How much sales do I need to have? So for such forecasting, the rand between function is helpful. For now, I will share this sheet once again in the chat box so that you can also use it. I have already made the table.
Okay.
I've shared the file in the chat box, so you can download it from there. I'll just wait for a couple of minutes so that everyone can get it. Just reshare my screen. Is the screen visible? You can just give me a thumbs up. Okay. Now we will look at the charts. Like this is something I feel will be most common use for most of the people over here at some or the other point in your careers. So for charts similar to pivot table, we will have to select our data, click on insert, and then here are the chart options that are there. If you click on recommended charts, it will show you what are the different types of charts that you can see. So for now, initially, let's go with the bar chart. So here you can see that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the row below, and in the vertical part it is 0, 2000, 4000, 6000, and so on. So the vertical and horizontal part are called as axis. This part is called as axis title. Rather, axis title is over here. If you want to enter, say this is years, here it is amount. So axis are the horizontal and vertical portions. The axis title is the actual name of the horizontal and vertical portion. Chart title is the chart title that we can see over here. So here we can click on it and change it as amount and profit per year. Again, if we click on the chart in the plus sign, we can see chart title we have given. Data labels will, if selecting that, will show the exact amount for each of the column, which we don't need right now. Data table will give the actual data table from which the chart is made. Error bars we don't need right now. Grid lines is the faint horizontal lines that we are seeing. Legend is the color function that is given over here. And trend line also we don't need right now. So now if we see, what we wanted was amount and profit per year. But instead this blue bar, Excel has taken that year as an actual data set. So how do we change that? We go to select data. We'll click on year and remove. And in the horizontal, what what was the criteria by which we wanted the bars. So here we will click on edit, click on year, and then select all the years and OK. So now if we see, our chart is showing what was the amount of sales per year and what was the profit per year. Now here the amount might be a bit confusing, so I'll change this as sales and this as updated. Now was everyone able to follow along for this part?
Yes.
In this part also I took it slightly faster. So if there are any questions, you can let me know for this. Yes, for changing the year, I went to chart design, select data, and here year was selected as one of the entries. So I selected year, removed it, and then from the horizontal category, so the legend entries is what you want to see in the actual chart, and the horizontal category is what criteria you are seeing it by. So this instead of years can be the name of the customer. And then press OK. Also for the chart above, you can change the design of the chart from here. If you like black, currently I'll keep it as white. Now again a question to everyone. Here I have taken data only up to 2020, but say now 2021, 2022 years have also almost ended. So here I'll say 10,000, here I'll say 1500, here I'll say 11,000, here I'll say 1600. Now, if I want to get this data in charts, one way is to go to chart design again, and then you have to go to select data, then you have to click on the sales, edit, and then select the extra data and so on. But is there any way that if I just keep on adding data, my chart will also update? We have covered that in the past few minutes. Any answers? Like
By
if I,
dollar.
no.
Table, yeah.
Yes, insert table. So I have received a couple of answers from Purushottama and Nikita. So yes, we will convert it into a table. So right now this chart shows data up to 2020. Even if we click on this chart, we can see that up to 2020 is highlighted. So either we will have to drag it manually, or instead we can just convert this portion into a table. For now, I'll remove this portion. Again, Control T is inserting a table. My table has headers. Yes, it has. And OK. Now this has been made into a table. So now if you see this, then this chart is based on this table. Now if I add 2021, 2022, 10,000, 11,000, 1,500, 1,600. Now these two columns are automatically being updated over here, 2021 and 2022. Right? So whenever a reference is given to a table and the table updates, whatever the reference is given to, that also gets updated automatically, whether it is a pivot table or a chart or anything else. Right? So this is a bar graph that we saw. Similarly, a line graph can also be entered for this. But before we go there, I'll take a slightly advanced combo chart. Is that okay? Or first, let me cover the line chart itself. So again, I'll select this portion. I'll go to insert. I'll go to line chart and line. Now again, it is giving me year as consistent. So I'll go to select data, select year, remove it, click on edit the horizontal function, select this and press OK. Now I can see data up to 2022. Is inserting a line chart okay for everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. So now if we see that the vertical axis that is there, 0, 2000, 4000, 6000, that has set it itself according to the sales data, right? But we also have profit data. And the profit amount is very small as compared to sales. So the gray line that we see over here and the gray bars that we see over here, those are very small. Like we can barely see any movement in those, right? So now what if I want to see the movement in profit also properly? Then I will select change chart type, select the chart and I see change chart type over here. I'll click on that. And right at the bottom, I'll see a combo option. I'll click on combo. And now both of them I will select as line and tick mark a secondary axis portion. And then click OK. Now on the right hand side, we can see 0, 200, 400, 600 and so on. And on the left hand side, we can see 0, 2000, 4000, 6000 and so on. Right? For the gray profit line, the right axis is applicable since we selected secondary axis. And for the left sales line, the left axis is applicable, the orange sales line. So now we can see that in which year the sales went up by how much and in which year the profit went up by how much, right? So for the ease of use, I'll just remove the below data and I'll keep the data up to 2010. So now in the chart, the line chart, we can see that, okay, from 2001 to 2002, the sales went down, but the profit didn't go down as much. Then the sales went up, the profit went a bit down. Then profit went down, profit went up, but the sales went down. So if you have a secondary axis, then you can see what path the two things are following. Instead of sales and profit, this can be, say, number of students and number of rankers. Like overall number of students in a school might increase significantly, but the number of rankers might go down. So then that shows that, okay, like the school is doing better, but on a academic basis, it is not performing well. Or say if the number of students goes down, but the number of rankers go up, then the school is focusing more on students and so on. Now, similarly for this bar chart also, you can go to chart design, change chart type, combo. Now earlier it was, we changed both to line. Now we'll change both to column and click on secondary axis. Okay, so for now I've selected line. It's giving me a bit of an issue. But now you can see how the sales is going up and down in the bar, and the line is showing you how the profit is going up and down. Right? Any doubts in the combo chart portion?
Viewers one, I have one question.
Yeah.
Just one. I mean, I can copy this chart from Excel to Word, right?
Yes, you can do that. So if you just copy this, open Word and paste it over here, then the chart gets pasted.
Can you demonstrate that?
Yeah, just 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I just copy this chart and paste it to Word, it gets pasted. And you can make the changes here also. Like if you want to change, you don't want this legend of sales and profit to be seen, then you can remove it and so on.
Okay, great.
Also for the legend, you can place it like top right, bottom left, wherever you want. Usually it is kept at the bottom. Also, if you don't want someone to uh, change the data in Word, then what you can do is just copy the chart over here and paste it as image. Paste it as an image. So now no one can make any changes to this chart.
Yes, okay.
So you will have to use different paste options based on what your purpose is. Say you are sending it to a client or something, you don't want them to change anything, then you will send it as an image. If you are sending it to a colleague and they have to further work on it, then you will send it just by pasting it just like that, and so on. Now in this chart, you can explore about what type of design you like, and that you will have to play around and see. So sales and profit per year. This say I move this side. Legend, I can take it to the top. So this is a different style for the same chart. So based on your own preference, you or whatever is the system in your own company and so on, you can make changes for your own sessions, for your own charts. Right? Any further questions?
No.
Okay. So charts is covered. Now other formulae like left and right, I will cover in a bit. So shortcuts. So many times you didn't see me actually do something on the screen, but it happened. So there I was using some shortcuts. So say I want to paste something as a this thing I select, I copy it, and I want to paste it as image or a link picture. So I'll select Control C, and if I press Alt, then you see that these things are lighting up. F, H, N, P, M, A, etc. So now I want to go to the home tab since paste is over here. So then I'll press H. Then it says V for the bottom option. V. And now I want to paste the values. So then I'll press V again. If I want to paste it as an image, then it is showing U. If I want to paste it just like that, then it will be P, and so on. So for every thing that you see over here, there will be, if you press Alt and whichever tab you go to, N and C1. So if I have to enter a chart over here, instead of going to insert, clicking on this chart and inserting, I can press Alt N C1, and then the same option opens up again. So for Excel shortcuts, I won't be able to teach you all of the shortcuts, because for many things there are 2-3 different ways where you can do it. So you will have to explore whatever function you are doing. Maybe try clicking on Alt wherever it is, say data, and then refresh. So Alt, A, and whatever key is shown over here. Right? For the shortcuts, you just have to press Alt, and wherever the tab is, wherever option you are selecting, the letter will be shown over there, and you just have to follow that. So the shortcuts is also covered. And now I'll just come to the question that Ishan had earlier asked. That what if in my data, instead of Ishan, it is say Ishan Joshi. And what if Shardul Damle, Priya Bapat, Anaya Gujarati, and so on. So what if I want to sort this as per the last names? So there you will have to right click, insert, you will have to add a column, and there you have to select this column and go to data, text to column. So once you select text to column, select delimited, click on next, and here you will see that how is your text affected. So there is space between your first name and last name. So click on space and then click on next and finish. Okay. So now Ishan, Shardul, Priya, Anaya is separated and the surnames are separated. And now if you click select and filter or sort on this, then you can filter or sort this by the first name or last name. So another function of this is when, say, you might have seen data where it is C dash customer C, C dash customer D, C dash customer E, and so on. So here, if you want to remove that C dash, so for that, again, you will select the column, go to data, text to column, delimited, next, and instead here of space, you will click on other and give the dash over here and remove the space. So if you click on next and finish, now the C is separate and the customer CDE is separate. So whenever you want to separate a column into 2 different columns or 3 different columns, and there is a separator in between, say a space or a dash or something like that, you go to data, text to column, and then convert it. Right? On the other hand, if you have a last name, like first name column and last name column is separate, so say Ishan Joshi, Apte, Gaikwad. Now, if you want that, you want Ishan and Joshi to be together, then you will have to use the AND function. So is equal to this and this. So it will be then Joshi and Ishan. If you select instead Ishan and this, then it will be Ishan Joshi. So to make 2 columns into 1, you have to select the AND function. If you have to separate it, then you will have to go to text to column, and then you will have to just separate it by inserting the whichever common thing that is there, space, dash, hyphen, or whatever. right? So I've covered most of the things for today's session. Are there any doubts?
No.
I'm also sharing a feedback form in the chat, and the feedback is anonymous. So give honest feedback, whatever you want, harsh, good, however it is. And tomorrow's session will be on advanced Excel. There we will cover the pivot tables, if and functions, and so on. That we will cover in more detail. Tomorrow's session will also start at around 10. So
Okay.
please do fill in the form so that I can give a better performance for tomorrow's session. If you have any sort of feedback, whatever, then you can just let me know. Also, like whenever I'll share the Excel sheet once again in the WhatsApp group, you can try it out. You can use the functions. I'll be sharing the video recording also probably by tonight or tomorrow, and use that. And if you have any doubts related to that or even anything in your office Excel, you can always reach out to me. If it's a quick, easy doubt, then I can like help you resolve it like at that point itself.
Okay.
So thank you so much everyone for attending. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out to me. And I'll wait for a couple of minutes after the recording is over just to answer any questions that might be there.